Okay. Um, so I don't usually play the Italian. So I was kind of completely out of preparation when I played against you. But I played a lot as white, so I am familiar with some of the ideas as black. Um, so to start the review, um, this is standard Italian lines. Um, so the one this is I think this is Gioco Pianissimo generally. Um, so one of the main ideas that I tend to there's several different ways to play the Italian. I tend to play this. Um, Preparing this is the main idea. Um, Very often, what people will do is they'll respond with the knight, attacking this pawn. But the way you played it, um, it's a book move, so there are ideas here. I'm not super familiar with them. My response is basically getting rid of this bishop. It's actually a blunder to do it so soon because you can just take this pawn. Um, and castles. So I don't hate this move. Um, like at your level, if you are playing at a 500 level, which based on our game, I would say you play higher than a 500. But at the 500 level, castling here is fine, right? Winning the pawn is an advantage, but it's more of a marginal advantage. It's something that can sway a game if you play it out to an end game, but for a beginner, usually it's not the most important thing. So I take, and once again, I'm leaving this pawn undefended, so it's a bit of a blunder. Like I said, I'm not super familiar with some of these positions, and but protecting your pawn once again, not a bad move. It's a miss because you're missing an opportunity to grab a free pawn. That's all it's saying, right? You can see here it has it as a draw, which basically means it's a dead even position. I castle here. Once again, I've left this pawn undefended for several moves, so the engine doesn't like that. Um, and um, so now it seems like I can win a pawn, and I'm not entirely sure what the. So I guess now. So I'm playing through some of the engine moves, which it's unclear where the free. Oh, so it's saying I'm sorry. So it's saying the miss on your end is once again not capturing this free pawn. But um, so I like that you didn't take the bishop. Um, Takes the bishop is it's a good move, but it gives me the opportunity to open up my rook. That was my idea, and it is a common idea in some of these openings to basically um, after you trade the bishop, like your rook has this open file here. So um I like capturing the free pawn, um and this I kind of forced this trade. As far as the quality of the move, it says that you're up here. You do have this. You're staring at this. Your rook has an open file here, which I think is pretty strong. You do have doubled pawns, which is a bit of a weakness, and you can see here this pawn is now a bit weak. It has a knight, but if I were to remove that knight, you're down a pawn. Also, I'm stuttering a lot. It's because I'm cold. So here, just kicking the knight out of the way. Um, And then my idea here is I think I want to make this pawn break because after takes, takes. Um, I'm trying to remember what my exact idea was. I think my idea was to do this pawn break. No, I'm sorry. I know I'm going back and forth, but that was not my idea. My idea was actually to open up this diagonal for my queen, to try and attack this pawn. So that was what I was looking at. Um, Opening up this diagonal is an idea. Once again, it's the opening I tend to play is the French, and opening this diagonal is very common in the French. But and I applying knowledge from other openings can be helpful. If you're playing a new opening, generally I don't play new openings. I play them for fun against in casual games. Now this move, it's a neutral move. It just kind of forces a bunch of trades. And if I wasn't careful here, there is a checkmate. So I do like putting your rook there. Um, this is a pretty standard move. Putting your bishops um, on these squares. Once again, pretty standard. And I do so I like protecting the pawn here. I think that's a strong move. Um, and I mean the engine thinks it's just a good move, but I don't see any problem with that move. Um, so I'm trying to think which pawn does it not like? Oh, so it wants me to defend this pawn, but I much rather kick your knight. Um, and here it's a bit unlucky. I just happen to be able to trap the knight here. Um, and I would say it's kind of a situational thing, right? So I'm covering these squares. So the best move here would probably be to go back, um, or let's see what the so the engine. Oh, the engine probably wants you to attack the bishop. Nope. I'm not entirely sure what the engine wants you to do here, but this is I would say this is a bit unlucky. Getting whenever you get a piece trapped like this, sometimes I just happened to see it. It wasn't my idea, um, but then this. Um, so what I probably would have done here is play this rook move. Um, with the idea of if captures, trying to go for a checkmate here. Now this doesn't work because I can bring my rook back and then I'm just up a piece. And this kind of starts to look like it's forcing a trade a little bit. Um, but this move, not the worst idea. It doesn't work because I can just capture. Um, and now this bishop's defended. Um, so moving the knight, it's the engine likes it. The engine says it's an excellent move. Um, you're activating your knight. You're making room, I guess, for some of these pawns. Um, but it still doesn't have a lot of mobility, right? Because it can't go here, can't go here. It can go here, and that's it. So you when one thing to think about is the number of available squares that a piece will have when you move it. And right now, this knight only has one square, which would generally make it a bad knight. Um, so my idea here, simply winning a pawn. protecting the bishop and threatening the rook. Um, Once again, defending a pawn. I like this move, and it is actually the best move in the position. And this trade, taking advantage of the fact that your knight doesn't have anywhere to go, and kind of pushing it backwards. Um, so the idea here is I don't want to get back rank mated. So it's kind of to give my king an escape square and give myself some leeway. I'm thinking about this move. It leaves the knight unprotected. Um, Otherwise, advancing pawns kind of in an endgame like this is not necessarily bad. Um, and now I'm threatening to win the knight and win this pawn if you're not careful here. And then I could have taken this pawn or this pawn. Um, I chose that pawn, and this is a strong move. This is a really good move. If I had, let's see, so if instead I had taken this pawn, that would have been the best move because now this no longer works. This works, but I can just with that this works. I can kind of then just no, I still lose a knight. So yeah, I ultimately I really this is a really solid move, right? You're kind of forking my pieces here, and I have to move the rook ultimately. Um, I think this probably would have been the best move. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. Um, so yeah, I'm just looking at attacking this pawn. That's kind of my entire focus. And then this protects that pawn and captures a free bishop. So once again, these are some very strong moves. Um, and now I'm just trying to push my pawns to try and get a queen at this point. Um, Once again, I like this move. Forces me to go backwards. And this it is the best move because you're taking space on the open file, right? Um, and generally putting your rooks in the center here is good. Um, I think you had the idea of going here and kind of threatening my king, um, which is actually the best move. So it's not what I would have probably tried to set up, but there are definitely some attacking ideas here, and um, there are real threats. But once again, you happen to walk into a fork, right? Now, king forks, they're pretty rare. Um, this is it's one I mean, there's not really luck in chess per se, but I would say this is kind of unlucky. And captures back. Um, and now at this point, rook versus knight tends to just be a losing endgame, right? So I'm trying to push my pawn, threatening to win the knight. So this is the type of thing. It's ultimately a losing position no matter what you do, because right, if you if you played here, I could just do this and win the knight anyway. So and you can tell that it's just a losing position because this is the best move and it still loses a knight. The reason it's the best move is because now I have to like you know waste a move. That's actually the best. But I have to like waste a move to get my rook out of the way so that I can start marching my pawn forward. Um, so at this point, there's not really much you can do. Um, and this is just a matter of me checkmating you, and um, there's I think you didn't make any super positional mistakes. I would say that ultimately, if you look at the evaluation bar, it was even until, this night trap, and at that point you're playing catch up. Um, and you did have that strong forking idea, and I didn't handle it correctly. So you did actually kind of even it out. Um, and if you count, I do have a one pawn advantage. So this pawn here is an advantage. That's what, and the engine says I have basically an exactly 1 point advantage. Um, but ultimately, that is you're able. It is possible to come back from that. Um, and here, hmm, I wonder what the problem with this is. So let's see. Oh, okay, so it just wants you to capture a free pawn. Ultimately, once again, I would say that there's nothing stood out to me as super bad. Um, you made it to a mid game where happened to um, you just happened to kind of get trapped, and things kind of went downhill from there. But overall, I'd say it was pretty strong.